Yesterday, I spoke to the idea that every single dollar we earn in our business is initiated through the power of conversation and the very first interaction we have with our potential clients. And this was on my mind all last night. And as I woke up this morning thinking about how I'll approach this episode today, this conversation is all I can think about. The thing is, I know this. I've worked with many of my clients who are in exactly the same position. And when we zoom out and analyze the kink in the hose, where we look at the opportunities that we have, we know that starting conversations is an absolutely critical element to our business. So why is this step so often the piece that is put off and not completed and the action that remains unchecked at the end of the day? Hello there, my name's Paul Heron, and this is the From Zero to Marketing Hero podcast. This podcast is my year-long journey to document my journey from being a marketing novice to understanding some of these principles, and hopefully at the end of 12 months, be able to understand more about who my ideal client is and to have the skills to confidently bring them into my world on my terms. Before I get started today, I just quickly wanted to shout out and say, if you're enjoying the podcast or getting any value at all, it'd be awesome if you could hit that subscribe button and potentially even leave a review. It would help me so much in being able to spread the word and get the word out there. And that really helps in terms of sharing this idea with a wider audience. So why have I found myself putting off this reaching out and initiating conversations? This is something I have thought about so often over the last 5 years. And to be honest, I've probably used every single excuse under the sun to justify why I haven't formed solid habits around this. But if I'm honest with myself, I have always felt an element of resistance around reaching out and proactively connecting with people. If I look back over the last 5 years of being self-employed and even beyond, I can remember being a teenager and being too fearful to get on the phone at all. So I've come a long way over the years, and particularly over the last 5 years, I've developed a huge element of confidence in terms of being able to show up and put myself out there and allow myself to be visible to the world. But even now, at times, I still succumb to some of this resistance. So how does this resistance show up in my world now? It's interesting. As I've alluded to in earlier episodes, for the last 5 years, there has been part of me that has really wanted to commit and understand this whole marketing process. In some ways, in the back of my mind, it's felt a little bit like, there's a magic switch or a button there that, if I can only overcome this little obstacle, all the secrets will be uncovered. But as I embark on this journey, one thing that is becoming really clear to me is that it's overcoming some of these internal struggles and internal resistance that is going to be key to enable me to be able to put myself out there and start testing some of this stuff out that I intend to work on. Just this year alone, I have set myself 2 challenges before I took on this podcast. One was in early January, I set myself a goal of spending 60 minutes every single day on what I called prospecting at the time, which was everything from replying to messages that I had received, reaching out to people I hadn't been in contact for a while, reaching out to social media groups, trying to do a little bit of work to find where my perfect clients might be hanging out and engage, start conversation, and see what came of it. But that didn't last long. I think I did it for about 3 days in a row. And then the procrastination kicked in, the scrolling through social media, the focusing on things that are nowhere near related to prospecting, like working on my website or thinking about courses I might be able to create or group training programs that still aren't off the ground. And, reflecting back on that, they were all excuses to take me away from the thing that I know that I should have been doing. So what's really going on here with all the excuses that I've been making and the resistance that I'm feeling towards doing this thing that I know is so critically important to my business? And for me, it's pretty easy once I start to look under the cover a little bit and shine a light on what's actually going on. For me, it's pretty easy to see the reason behind a lot of this protective elements that I've been putting in place to protect myself from taking on the task of reaching out and cold calling. It comes down to my fear of not fitting in or not being able to please everybody with my message. The thoughts of what are people going to think? The thoughts of who am I to put myself out there and claim to be the expert in any of these topics that I'm talking about. The fear that people are going to laugh at me, and ultimately the fear that I'm just not good enough. In the end, that's what it comes back down to each and every time for me. And once I become aware of that, I have the ability now to try and create a more empowering, courageous solution to this. And really, if I think about it, that's what this whole exercise, showing up every day and creating these podcasts every single day, is all about for me. As I mentioned, I've made some huge strides forward over the last 5 years, particularly the last 18 months, particularly. Only this time last year would have been a real challenge to show up, create this type of content, to get up and be able to talk confidently about myself and the challenges that I've been experiencing. It really would have been next to impossible. And, I can see this huge amount of progress that I've been able to make. But as I mentioned, there is still some resistance that I experience on a daily basis. So what can we do to start to think about this in a slightly different way? Or I should say, what am I going to do? Or what must I do moving forward to give myself the best chance of being able to continue to move that needle forward even further? For me, it really is about just continuing to build awareness of what is actually going on. For me, understanding that fear has been something that has prevented me or caused inaction in me for such long periods of time. It's about understanding the distinction between needing external things to happen to allow me to feel comfortable and me doing the inner work or doing this internal work to help me build my self-trust and self-confidence in terms of deciding what my next steps forward are. I also want to continue developing a healthy relationship with myself. So if I do catch myself out procrastinating or putting things off or not doing the things that I've committed myself to doing, really trying to find a way to not be hard on myself and to just learn to be able to get really curious and lean in with my reflections afterwards to try and uncover some of the things that have been going on. Did I put into the calendar, did I put in my prospecting into the calendar too late in the day when I didn't have the energy to follow through on it? Where are the lessons that I can take out of those experiences that don't quite go to plan, that I can take into the next iteration or the next try and hopefully give myself a better chance of showing up and being able to follow through on the commitments I make? And most importantly, it's probably just understanding that sometimes this fear is going to rear its face, and that's just okay. Maybe that is just part of the process. So maybe the goal is not to eliminate fear, but in ways to be able to pick a point out of the comfort zone that feels manageable enough to continue to make our decisions about committing to taking action, even though we feel the fear, committing to take courageous action outside of our comfort zone to continue moving that needle forward. And for me, it really is just about continuing this journey, continuing to identify what that next step is that's going to be a challenge, and to keep pushing myself to keep growing, to keep taking these steps out of the comfort zone, to keep noticing what's going on, and to keep building momentum. So I'll leave it there for today. I hope my experiences have provided some value for yourself in your own journey. I genuinely believe the more we can build awareness, the more we can work together to overcome some of these challenges and to provide the commitment and courage to continue to push ourselves forward and to keep making steps in the direction that we want to be going, then we can all work together towards creating the future that we want to create. If this conversation has struck a chord with you and you can resonate with the message that I have conveyed in my story today, please reach out and start a conversation. You can reach out personally. I'd love to hear from you. you can head over to my website, paulheronlifecoaching.com. There's a ton of information on there. You can subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can inquire about coming onto the show as a guest. Whatever you feel is appropriate, I'd love to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope you're able to take some of these tips and tricks and lessons and my experience, and I hope it helps you in planning what your next step forward is. That next step slightly out of the comfort zone, embracing the fear that might be experienced and making that decision to tackle it with courage and commitment and feel the fear and take the action anyway. So I hope you all have a fantastic day today, and I'll be back tomorrow with day 24. Bye for now, guys.